Hi guys, my name is Prince Zulu, and this is a video I'm going to be doing with a friend of mine called Thabiso Mota. And basically, we're going to be discussing today the decision to buy your first car. So it is very important that we discuss such issues because I think as a society, we're a very entertaining society. We have memes and we have all of these entertaining content that we have on social media. But we hardly, as young people, engage on very important issues such as the decision to buy your first car, which I feel is a very important decision because uh, if you get this one right, then you sort of prepare yourself for a very better future financially because a car is a commitment that goes for a period of 5 years at minimum. You know, it can go up to 7 years. And so it's important that we get this one right. And especially because we are living under very difficult economic times, you know, with this pandemic that's happening and all these other things that have people losing their jobs and the statistics as far as how indebted we are as a society or as a country. You know, I think it's very important that we have this type of conversations and so we can empower ourselves because I always say knowledge is power, you know. We might have not had the opportunity to have people discuss issues like this with us when we made important decisions in the past. But I think it's important that now we empower one another so that going forward, we know exactly what we're engaging on and what the issues are actually. So without any further waste of time, I'm going to introduce a very close friend of mine, a brother, Thabiso Mota. Thabiso, please introduce yourself, my friend.
Hi Zulu and hi guys. I'm honored to be chosen to have a conversation with you around this issue, Zulu. And yeah, I'm excited. Let's see what comes out of it. And yeah, I hope there will be value for us as we discuss it, and you know the guys will be watching this video. Thanks.
Definitely. Okay. So I just have a few questions that I want us to discuss. And I think once we've discussed these questions, if there's any further need for us to discuss more questions, I think we'll do a second part to the video in which we'll engage on those questions and really get to understand the complexities of what it takes for you to get a proper first car. But for now, let's just cover the basics of the overall view of what exactly entails buying a first car. I think at first, my friend, I would like to just ask you a question. Let's see, why do people buy a car? And is there value in owning a car? Because some people would advocate for using public transport and all of that. And so I just want us to address that question. So why do people buy a car and exactly what is the value, if any, from buying a car?
Yeah. Look, I think first of all, there's no objective answer to that question. You know, the value of your car will be subjective to you as a user. You know, so we cannot attach, no general blanket value to owning a car. That's why some of us can delay the decision to buy a car till later, whereas some of us feel the urgent need, you know, because of the value that it will provide given the space that we're in our lives at that point in time, right? But speaking for me personally, I saw a need to buy a car when I started working because of the type of job that I was in. And I realized that it was a bit uncomfortable the way, you know, I was commuting to work. You know, I had to wake up in early hours, like, you know, as early as 4:30, you know, for me just to get to work in time. And when I was taking taxis, if I dare wake up at 7 o'clock, I know that when I get to the taxi ranks, the queues will be a kilometer long and I'll actually be late at work, you know, whereas going to work was actually just a 40-minute drive. So there was value for me because I was like, no, I can't continue like this. So that was the value of convenience. Maybe just to bring the conversation closer. Right now we have a pandemic, you get into a taxi, you don't know who you're getting into a taxi with, you don't know where they have been. Whereas when you have your own car, you sort of lower that risk, of exposure to the virus. You can commute to wherever you want without any limitation necessarily. And so in that sense, I think from a personal point of view, like I said, it can't be a generalistic statement, but I think there's definitely value in that.
No, I think I concur with what you're saying, because the convenience that comes with owning a car, like you said, cannot be matched. Yes, if you're not buying a car, you are saving probably. And I think that's why I want us to further discuss and really emphasize the fact that these cannot be seen as substitutes. The decision to buy a car and the decision to save. So at some point we need to get to a point where we say these two can be married into this income that I'm earning. So yeah. I can also drive a car, to save up a bit. And yeah. So I think it's important that as we go along, we emphasize on that. But I'm happy with your response to the first question, my friend.
Absolutely.
So my next question is then, if you say there's value in owning a car, yeah. Is there value in paying more for a car? So in buying a more expensive car than you would ordinarily, So opting for basically a more comfortable car or a comfort line instead of just the trend line. Is there value in that?
Yeah. Look, we're not financial advisors, guys. We're not financial advisors, but I think that the point of this is not to make a financial advice video, but rather a conversation around issues that we face every day. And that's exactly how I'm gonna tackle it, right? Because expensive is also relative to what space you're in, right? But there is usually a general, standard that if for you to own a car and still live comfortably, it should not be more than around 25 to 30% of your income after tax, right? So every cost that is associated with your car should be ideally between 25 to 30%, of your income per month. That's the value. So, but then that may differ. You as Prince may decide that I think there is value in me going all the way to 40% to 45%, right? Because whatever reason the reasoning may be in this. But to speak of comfort maybe a bit, because we've introduced the issue of convenience, right? It's a fact that some of us, for instance, there was a time I was spending like close to 4-5 hours on the road, per day. And I consider my car quite comfortable. It's not a super luxurious car, but I consider my car quite comfortable, right? But, by the time I get elderly, I actually feel my back pains, and I would imagine that had maybe I bought, a less comfortable car, it's strenuous and even on the body, So, I mean, let's take an example, when Skibela Amatex, you sometimes choose to Gibela a Quantum over a Siaya, for multiple reasons. Firstly, sitting in a Siaya is quite uncomfortable, And if you're going to go long distance, maybe in Joburg to Mpumalanga in a 3 hours, you will definitely feel the effect if you're gibelering a Siaya or versus where you're gibelering. So that's my on that and the value.
Okay. No, thank you so much. I like the term you introduced, gibelering. I think we should put it somewhere in the dictionary. It's a very good term. But also just to add, my friend.
I take from Mama Angie Mutsecha, she says we're not Koshagaland.
Yeah. So just to add, my friend, I think we must not discredit people who pay more for the cars, because what we're saying is you're not just buying a car, you're not just paying the premium for nothing, but you'll find, like you said, there's more comfort, it's safer to drive a car that will cost you a bit more in case you come across an accident, because we cannot write these things off. That's why we have insurance, because we foresee that these are possible difficulties that we might have to encounter. And also, you don't want to be buying cars every 5 years, you know. So you sort of have to consider the fact that after buying a car, you need to start looking at maybe investing in property, and you know. So if you buy a car with only with the perception of wanting to save, you might miss out on the fact that a car is going to have to last you probably for the next 10 years while you try to figure out other aspects or other parts of your life, you know. So I think it's very important that we consider that. And
yeah, you're quite right, Zulu. You know, you're right, because I think you're bringing in a very important aspect here, which is the length of time that you are committed to this debt of your car if you're financing it, right? Because most of us buy financing, and maybe just as a disclaimer to this video, I think when we're speaking of buying a car here, we're speaking mostly of financing options, you know, and not guys who can afford to pay it cash. You know, there are other options where people would rather save up until maybe 80,000, 90,000, and then they'll go and get a good second-hand car, and then, you know, if it needs fixing, they fix it, and then they can drive it, you know, without any problem, right? But I think most guys would rather buy a new to pre-owned cars, you know, less than 30,000 kilometers. And like you're saying, a 5-year commitment to your investment, right? Now, if you go for too cheap a car, you know, too small a car, now you firstly you're unsatisfied for it because you know that you have settled because of where you are now, right? And secondly, will quickly feel the need to upgrade, you know, in quicker, even after you are done paying off the car. 5 years is a lot. I mean, still paying for a car. It can be 6-7 years at times, you know? So you also want to buy a car that you feel comfortable to keep for a long while, even after you have paid it off, you know, and you don't have pressure to upgrade, so to speak, you know, because you don't want to be working for financing cars, like you're saying. So I think that's the point that you're raising.
No, thank you so much, my friend. And so I heard you mentioning the percentage of your income that you need to spend on a car. What exactly are you considering? Are you considering only the lease payments, which is the financing monthly payments, or is that inclusive of your fuel and, you know, and all other costs that come with owning a car? Please clarify that for me.
Yeah, so one of the major decisions that you also need to take is, first of all, how big a car do I want to buy, especially in terms of fuel consumption, right? I think I think right now we're speaking more on the finance. I think from where I'm sensing this video going, we've not spoken about the technical decisions of buying a car, because, and part of that technical decision will be how fuel consumptive is my car. You know, I'm driving a 1.6 liter engine car, and on average I spend close to 2,000 rand on petrol alone, you know. And then there is the actual financing of the car, which you are paying the monthly installment towards the debt of the car. And then secondarily, there is the insurance of the car, you know, there is the tracker of the car. For instance, when I'm staying, there's no good parking. So I also have to pay for parking of the car, right? As a new driver, I had to bust my tires a few times because I did not understand the sensitivity of the tires, and I'll just drive onto potholes. And suddenly there is a cost, you know, and for me to buying a tires, and then I'm taking out 800, 900 rand to just go and buy a tire, you know. So those are the type of costs that you have to consider when buying a car.
No, thank you so much. I think it's very important that we clarify these things, because most of the time when you go to a car dealer and you ask for a price of a car, they'll give you the monthly installments alone because they want you to probably take that option. But also, if they're going to give you the price of the car, they'll give you the cash price of the car. So before the financing costs and all of those other things that you mentioned, the trackers and the VATs and everything else that comes with a car. And so I think it's important that when we look at what it costs us to buy a car, we must look at that cost holistically so that we do not understate the costs that we will incur from owning cars. And then from that, we will make an informed decision as to the type of car that we buy and whether or not we can afford it So I think that's a very important aspect. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. And there's also a mobility, gaining mobility introduces cost on its own, you know. Currently, when I think of going to Cubana at night, you know, I think twice because the Uber cost, you know, is gonna, you know, the transport cost, da 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 da. But now I don't think twice. Wherever I want to go, I just get into my car, whatever the time is, and I drive. And that introduces a cost because it gives you mobility that you did not have previously, and that mobility introduces cost, actually, you know. So that's one of the things to consider, that there's a slight change in lifestyle. Now you want to do things that you couldn't do before, and that introduces another element of cost, although not directly linked to the car.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I think I like the fact that we are being realistic about these things, because it is not every cost that we can quantify, but these things are actually things that happen, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so one other thing that I want you to consider, to just assist me with, my friend, is, you know, there's this concept of a good first car. You know, people will tell you, for a first car, buy a bakkie, because it'll help you for carrying stuff, you know, when you want to carry things, and for business purposes, you know. So I just want to know, is there a good first car, or is there a good type for a first car? Yeah, I just want you to help me with that one.
Yeah. Cheers. I'll try and take it in two parts, that question. Firstly, there is this emphasis that do not buy an expensive car as your first car, because you're most probably going to scratch it, you know, make an accident, da 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 da. So you need to have a car that will allow you to, you know, to make those mistakes, you know, to bend that lash pad that is not expensive, da 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 da. You know, that's I don't wanna entertain it much, but I wanna come on the second thing where, for instance, you would say get a bakkie. Okay, let me make an example with mine. My car is a multi-purpose car. I decided to buy an Uber car, right? So I can drive my car to work, and I can also use my car as a secondary stream of income because it's enrolled in Uber. Now, if I were to tell you that, Prince, buying an Uber car is a good decision for your first car, you'll probably think I'm crazy, because La Ohlala Corner in Barberton, Prince, there is no Uber market, right? Now, you have bought an Uber car, but there is no Uber market. Where are you going to get the people that are going to Uber around, right? Now, you have bought this generalistic first good car, that, or a bakkie, you know. I can't imagine what I would use a bakkie for. I mean, I work in... and so that's my take on it. Yeah.
No, I think I like the view that you have. I mean, you look at other people, like myself, I'm a professional service provider.
Yes.
So you find on one Monday morning, I have to travel with a team to a client, which is about more than 200 kilometers away, you know. And the policy at the office will tell you that you must at least be able to accommodate 2 other people before you can have access to the claims of the distance that you have traveled, you know. So if you are bringing a bakkie now because you've got this generalistic view of saying it's a good car for business, you know.
Yes.
So I think I like the take, the view that every situation must be looked at on its own merits. Which is to say, every person needs to consider for themselves what a good car is, you know. And so I think that's a very good way of looking at this thing.
Absolutely.
I think I've asked you, for the most part, all of the questions that I would have loved to ask you. And at this point, I'd just like to know if you have any general advice that you would give to someone who's looking to buy a car. You know, for instance, now the interest rate cuts have been coming in, you know, flowing in because of the pandemic. So I would say it's the perfect time for someone who wants to buy a car to buy it now, because car dealers have not been selling for a long time. So they're trying to get rid of some of their stock, you know. So because of that, it would be a great time for someone to buy a car. So what other advice would you give me?
I think, just as a parting note from myself, Prince, 2 things, right? Primarily, a car is to move you from point A to point B, right? So because you don't want to also wait 5 years before you start saving up, before you start, you know, to invest there and there. So I think 25 to 30% of your income spent on your car is a good benchmark. However, it can vary according to need and according to discretion, because at the end of the day, you need to make the decision that is best suited for you, right? But you also don't want to tap much of your monthly capital or on your car, you know, for that long 5 year period, because you also want to live comfortably at the end of the day. Secondly, I think the risk that we must consider. I was reading Business Tech the other day, just 2 days back, and car dealerships were saying they are facing a problem where 40% of car buyers who bought cars in the last year are actually now returning those cars for cheaper cars. You know, someone who had a car which was worth 400,000 rand is now trying to look for a car that is around 200,000 rand because of retrenchment, because of cuts in salaries. People, the economy is bad at the moment, you know. So you also need to get a car that will allow you to still save up and, if possible, generate other streams of income from that primary income, which may be your salary in this instance, such that if at any point you are hit by retrenchment, because we never know, you know, you are in a position where you can be in a safe position. The last thing I think, right, there is car insurance and there is also debt insurance. Now, car insurance is in the event of an accident, your car is written off, or there's a cost to fixing your car, then you know that your insurance will cover that, or in terms of theft, right? But debt insurance says, in the event that my income stream is affected and I can no longer afford to generate income to pay for this car, for a period of 12 months, the bank can cover me and pay for my installment, such that I don't lose my asset, you know? And that debt cover, I think it's around less than 100 Rand. And I think it's worth it, especially given the times that we, you know, most of my friends are losing their jobs, you know, and they just bought cars just 6 months ago. Now, what happens? Now they have to go through the pain of losing their cars. Kandi, if you pay 100 Rand a month or so, whatever the banking, we need to do some research. Maybe we can make a secondary video about what the costing is from different banks, and then we can do that.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you. I wouldn't have asked for a better person to have this discussion with. And I like the point that you touched on, to say the primary purpose of a car is to move you from one point to the next. Because after a while, my friend, that's the actual value that you get to keep, you know. Maybe in the first few days you can get excited about the rims, the fact that it has sunroof, you know, but you hardly ever get to enjoy those things, you know, because the primary purpose is that it needs to move you from point A to point B. Yeah. And also the fact that investing needs to be, or saving needs to be a part of our lives, you know.
Yeah.
We've learned with this pandemic that we can't wait, or we can't really spend all of our income on things that we currently consume, but some of our income needs to be reserved, you know. And I think that's also very important. And I think also, just to add, you know, that these incomes that we get from work, you know, like your travel and subsidies, you know, these small incomes that we earn on the side, you know, that are not really a permanent part of our income, you know. And some people will make the decision to buy a car based on those income. You know, let's say you travel on the first part of the year around the province, for instance, and you'd get an additional 3,000, you know, and that's between January and July. And because of the pandemic now, that income is not there. You're not traveling, you know, but you'll find that your employer is paying your basic salary. And so I think we need to also be realistic about what income we are actually talking about when we say we're budgeting for a car or we're planning to buy a car. Let's not focus on these once-off amounts that aren't really reliable, or that might come, it might not come. Your overtime that only comes when you are at a specific point in time and you are able to work, you know. So I think also that are things that we should consider, you know, when we decide on whether we want to buy a car or not.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, my friend. And I wouldn't have asked, like I said, I wouldn't have asked for anyone else. And to our viewers, thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is a video that we are posting. And this is the first of many videos that are going to come, where we educate one another, where we talk about the things that really matter to us, especially as young professionals, because we've probably been through an academic degree, but we haven't really been taught the principles of how to maneuver this life thing. And so thank you so much for your time. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share the video, and be sure to
also comment below, tell us what are your thoughts. What do you think we should touch on more if there is a need to, to expand the conversation? Critique us if you don't think, we were sound enough in these views. I would love to hear that feedback, I think.
Thank you so much.